There's a moment that happens in almost every labor room that nobody warns you about. Your instincts are screaming one thing, and your partner is nodding along with the doctor, with the nurse, with the staff, and suddenly you feel completely alone. Today, Lena Athena is going to make sure that never happens to you. And that is exactly why I brought Lena Athena onto the show today, because this is not a husband bashing conversation, a partner bashing conversation. I want to be really clear about that. This is a let's actually prepare your partner for one of the most intense experiences of both of your lives conversation. And there is a big difference. Lena is a TEDx speaker, a boundaries expert, and a mom who helps women get the respect and support they deserve during the transition into motherhood. And what I love about her approach is that she is not teaching you to go to war with your birth team or your partner. She teaches you how to say the hard things in a way that keeps your relationship intact while still protecting yourself, because you should not have to choose between advocating for yourself and keeping the peace. Lena is going to show us how to do both. So if you have a partner who is going to be in the labor room with you, this episode is required listening. Send this to him after you're done listening. Lena, welcome to the birth experience. I'm so excited to have you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So I want you to take a moment. So for you guys, I know Lena. We've known each other for a couple of years, and I'm really excited for her to share with you why she's doing what she's doing and just give a little bit of a backstory about your own motherhood journey.
Yeah, so the real answer to why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I used to suck at boundaries and I thought I was great at them because I built my career up professionally. I was chairperson of a commission. Every other woman was older than me, probably twice my age, but I was getting elected and people were like, "Wow, you're such a leader." I would close my laptop, go into my real life, and I would not feel like a leader at all. I would feel invisible. I would feel like, why? I know exactly what I want to say. Why am I struggling to say it so much? Why do I feel like I said what I want and the other person's like, it's not registering? Is it me? Is it them? And so that just took me on this journey of, okay, well, people don't really role model how to set healthy boundaries and to do it in a way that feels kind, and I'm not pushing people away. I'm being genuine and vulnerable. And so it took years of iterating that for that to click. And then I started working with other people, coaching them on that. And, motherhood was a whole different beast though, right? So it's like all the tools that worked before did not work when I had pregnancy brain and I was sleep deprived, and because I had like crazy insomnia when I was pregnant, and I was just like losing my sense of, am I not explaining things correctly about my expectations about, what's going to happen after and postpartum? Like, am I setting myself up for teamwork? Does my family understand what I'm looking for support wise? It created so much confusion in me that I did not expect, because I was already this like expert and helping people and I've been doing it for years. And it made me really have to like sit down and go, okay, I do have things that I want to learn here and do differently, and motherhood requires very different skills. So let me sit with that. And now I'm just obsessed with it. And it's this iterative process of, cool, even as my baby's growing, my expectations from people change constantly in terms of like, what is supportive? How long can my mother-in-law come to visit for from India, right? Like the expectations that I have changed by the moment, and the needs I have changed by the moment. And that's what's so special about learning to advocate for yourself as a mom, is because your needs change by the moment because your baby's changing and they're growing and they're evolving. And it's just so nice to be able to ask life to evolve and adapt with you and actually make you feel supported. And it is something that's really missing. It feels so isolating when you don't have that as a new mom. It's incredibly isolating and depressing. So yeah, that's why I'm here to talk about this. I think it's probably one of the most life-changing things you can do is actually get support as a new mom.
I agree. And I also agree that just speaking up or even knowing what it is you want is so hard when you're pregnant and when you're in labor and when you're a new mom, because everything is so rapidly changing, including, like you said, how you feel. So let's start with the labor room. And because obviously that's my jam for sure. But why do you think that the labor room is so specifically hard for partners to speak up and for mom to, I honestly, it goes back to before you get into the labor room, but why do you think it's so hard for partners and for moms to speak up for what they want when it comes to your doctor or your nurse?
Yeah. I think there's two primary things here. The first is very biological, right? Like most of our lives, as much as we could be growth oriented, we try to put
Yeah.
ourselves outside of our comfort zone. We are pain averse. We don't want to be in pain. We don't want to be in discomfort. We don't want to stretch ourselves. And labor asks you to do exactly all those things, right? And so how are we supposed to, on this like visceral level, all of a sudden have a certain level of peace that we never allow ourselves to have in day-to-day lives when we're just trying to like get rid of the pain, find the convenience.
Mm-hmm.
And our partners are used to trying to help us do that, right? So it's like, oh, my partner has a headache, let me recommend her an Advil or take a shower or whatever your methods are for doing that. They will tell you, hey, let's get you away from the pain and away from the discomfort. And all of a sudden, that's not your partner's role anymore. It's not to take you away from pain and discomfort. That feels weird. All of a sudden their pain, their struggle, and their emotional dissonance is showing up because they don't want to see you in pain. And yet their job is to stay calm while you're on this journey. And when they, the mirror neurons are firing, they feel the discomfort, they know it feels like this is wrong. Something is wrong and I have to fix it. But that's the name of the game, is that you go through discomfort of some kind, right? Whether psychological or physical in labor, you grow as a person, and that takes a lot. So I think that's like the fundamental biological thing that's happening, which distracts from the second thing. The second thing is that we do have this relationship with authority that is, I want to say, flat. As a society, we have a very flat relationship with authority. Somebody has it or they don't. And our job is to just kind of like contort ourselves to the person with the most authority in the room as much as possible. It's the polite thing to do. It's the logical thing to do, right? We have this like internal narrative. And so your partner is not only physically uncomfortable because they love you and they hate to see you in this pain, they're also psychologically uncomfortable because their desire to fix things does not work anymore. And then on top of that, somebody's telling them, hey, while you feel you are doing the wrong thing, this is what I think the right thing is. It's very easy. It's very human nature to go, I don't feel like the leader. I'm going to be a follower. And there's somebody that wants to lead me and I'm going to listen. And that's my job. It's very natural to go into that. Unfortunately, it's not yielding the response and the experience that you need. But I think, I'm glad you asked that, because I think that like framing that for yourself and even being able to talk about it before the labor and go, hey, this is probably what's going to happen. How do you also remind yourself not to go into that place emotionally so that you can be the partner that I need? I think it's worth sitting with. There might be other reasons too, but I think those are the two fundamental things that I just hear happen over and over again.
Yeah. And I also, what is your thought about prior to the birth room? Because I tell my students all the time, like, you have to understand what you're putting in your birth plan, what you want for your birth experience, and why. Because I find that it's really hard on these partners. Like you said, they already have this relationship to authority. And then you're in the middle of labor and a doctor says, we need to do this to prevent X, Y, and Z, or prevent an emergency, or prevent a dead baby, which they do say, where mom may understand this might not be necessary, but she's in a lot of pain. I always tell my moms, like, in labor, your only job is to labor. Like, that's when your partner and your team has to advocate for you. Like, you don't have to do that then. But it's really hard to advocate for someone if you don't understand what and why. So what is your thought on that? Like, as far as, and there's two parts to that, because maybe she has explained and he doesn't agree with her choices.
Yeah. I mean, that is a really big part of it. I've heard all sorts of things from partners insisting on an epidural or a no epidural, or I think that there's again, we're kind of like split in what the issue is. There could be this core way of decision making in the relationship at large that is just coming into the labor and delivery room with you. That is something that is going to take a much wider lens than to say your partner trusts you, believes in you. You've talked about your birth plan before. You
Mm-hmm.
are on the same page, but they might still get in that room and go, this is uncomfortable. I don't know. My partner looks in a lot of pain. Even if she says she's okay, I don't know if she's just putting on a brave face. Do I just listen to the person who is most experienced because I feel so inexperienced in this? I think regardless, the number one thing to do is have a lot of conversations about it, because the
Mm-hmm.
more you normalize that, the less fight or flight that brain is going to go into in the delivery room, because you're like, wait, okay, we talked about what happens if, right? Like genuinely asking your partner, what happens if I tell you I can handle it, but it doesn't look to you like I'm handling it? Or like,
Mm-hmm.
what
Yeah.
happens if I tell you in my intuition everything's fine, but the doctor's not certain based on their less intuitive, but more medical ways of making decisions. And so a lot of that is dialogue. And I don't think you can cover all of it. And
Yeah.
understanding that you won't be able to cover all of it. So you have to have a backup plan for like, what if we didn't cover this? Then how are we going to navigate it as a team and not feel like we're like making decisions that are practical, but we're making decisions that are really setting the lens for how we feel as a team, as parents, because that's the next step. Is like, this is your entryway into parenthood. This is,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually defining a completely new relationship that you two share.
Yeah. And I want to go back a little bit because you said that it also depends on the dynamics of their relationship and their decision making in general. So let's lean into that a little more.
So I think a lot of people are naturally avoidant of difficult conversations, right? And that's beautiful in a way, because it means that we like to have fun with people and we like to do lighthearted things. We like the intimacy that we feel when we don't have the hard conversations, but that tends to kind of like kick us in the butt later.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those cases where the more you lean into the discomfort beforehand, the more you can be okay with the discomfort that happens in the growing process of labor and delivery. So one of the fundamental things that I believe partners need to change, ideally even before pregnancy, and that's a personal belief. Like I negotiated our, labor agreement and how things were going to go before we conceived, because that was important to me. And I was like, I have a
Yeah.
plan, my body, my choice. We need to be on the same page about it. I'm not going to feel pressure to,
Do
not be
what you think I
myself.
should do. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I genuinely think it was one of the most special moments of my life. And I was like, if it's one of the most important moments of my life, I want to feel like myself, and I want to feel heard, and I want to feel seen. I want to feel supported, and I want to feel like I'm being me and I'm in my skin. And so I have to be the dominant decision maker. But in that moment, it is very hard to make decisions. So how do I be the dominant decision
Mm-hmm.
maker in advance? And so that was part of the process, was me saying, hey, before we even conceive a child, let's talk about what decisions I've already made that are non-negotiable. Let's get on the same page about that. And there was some discomfort, because I mean, he grew up with like almost everybody he knows has had a C-section. And so to him, me and my more natural ways of doing things was like, what? And oh, are you sure? Like, don't you just defer to the doctor? So it took a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for everyone, it's
And you're
different. The
saying
point being,
that happened before pregnancy.
yeah, for me, that happened before, because I was like, this is so important for me that I want to talk about it, because I knew there was such a massive gap. Right. And that's what inspired me to do it. Some couples are a lot more similar in their lens. Right. But for my husband, it was like, if there's a C-section, okay, most people I know have one. And for me, I was like, no, that's not okay. Let's talk about it. And I ended up having a home birth. So it's like polar opposite of what he thought was even fathomable for him. It took a lot
That
of
is,
conversing.
yeah.
Yeah. It took a lot of conversing. It took a lot of educating. It took a lot of trusting good intentions, even when he wanted to put his foot down about things and be like, screw this, I'm not doing that. And a lot of him having trust in me, which he did. By the time we got to the actual labor, there were moments where I was like so fatigued and I was like, is this even happening? And he was looking at me and he's like, you're doing so good. You can do this. It took a lot of conversations to get him to that level of certainty, so he could like anchor me in the like, yes, I can do this in the
Yeah.
moment of. So I chose to do it before even conceiving. Some of us already conceive and then we go, hey, I just realized like it's actually more different than I thought it would be. I thought we had more similar lens. It's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do? And so I think just leaning into, let's have as many uncomfortable conversations as possible now, so that we're on the same page in the delivery room. That would be my strategy. That'd be my go-to. Like, let's just do
Yeah.
it. You can also practice on your own. I'm a big believer in that. I think that going into a conversation not having practiced it at all is very difficult. And in general, the hardest thing about these conversations is we know they're going to make the other person uncomfortable. So we get uncomfortable
Mhm.
starting the conversation because we already feel like a bit of a villain. We're like, oh, I'm about to make this person really uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
I think if you can de-villainize yourself, like get used to saying the hard things and say it gracefully and go, how do I make this easier to hear? How do I like practice this in a way where I'm not like rehearsing, but I'm at peace. I'm genuinely at peace with what I'm about to say. You're going to get a completely different outcome if you've already gotten you and you on the same page before you go and try to get on the same page with this other person.
I love that we're talking about this because I think there's some key big decisions that I've seen because, I've been hanging out with my students since, 2020 online. And so I've had a lot of conversations and it goes all the way back. And you nailed one of them inadvertently is that even where do we deliver this baby? And I love what you said was you don't go into it hardcore, like this is my choice and screw you. You're like thinking about the other person as well. Because one of the things you said is that you teach people how to say the hard things, how to have the hard conversations without blowing up the relationship. So how do you do that? Like, how do you teach? Like, if you have I know you coach moms. If you have a mom, and it's I want to give birth at home, and not only your partner, but sometimes your partner's families are weighing into that, what your partner thinks about it.
Oh yes, they're weighing into that, and they also want to invite themselves there. And it's totally out of love, but like especially my mother-in-law wanted to come stay here, and it's a cultural thing too because my husband's Indian,
Right.
so can't kick her out of the house for the labor. And I was like, it
Yeah.
was like a record scratching moment. I think what you have to do in those moments is realize that it's actually a good thing that we all think differently. It causes tension sometimes, but it's really cool. It's what makes relationships interesting. And if you can go into it with a little bit of playfulness and a little bit of curiosity and like, why is this person doing what they're doing? Not like, I already know, and it's because they're mom. And that's very like, it's antagonizing and it gets us like amped up. And sometimes we want to be amped up specifically because we're scared if we're not lit up enough, we won't have the conversation. So that goes back to the avoidance piece. You have to be certain you're going to have the uncomfortable conversations, even if you're not very angry, very sad, very betrayed. You have to be certain you're going to do it because it's a
Yeah.
habit. When you have that certainty, it's easier to start having conversations sooner or have it even when it's a small thing and be able to frame like, I don't even know if I'm reading into this wrong or like, to go in with a level of like a vulnerability and humility. And
Mhm.
hey, I don't know if you think this is an issue. Maybe I misunderstood you. This is what I understood. And I think the point is to give it breathing space. And one of the things I like to tell my clients is when you become defensive, you actually become offensive, right? Because if you're defensive and you're like, I'm about to say this thing and I need to be heard, and you have this like energy of like, this person might not want to listen, but I'm going to make it happen. You're already coming in not feeling like a team. Almost no matter what word choice you use, if you're coming in
Yeah.
and you don't feel like a teammate, the other person's going to be like, you don't feel like a team. I don't feel like a team. Like it's a natural response.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I say a lot of it comes down to practice. I do work with moms. I actually have a really cool app that you get to just practice these hard conversations too. And there's like nobody there to judge you. So I think getting in the habit of just like practicing, figuring out what conversation do I know is going to come up, sitting down, thinking, what would I say if I was going to be like a complete meanie butt about it? And then what would I say if I was actually going to show up
Yeah.
like a team? And getting yourself to trust you can say it in a way where you don't have to be defensive, you don't have to be offensive. You can actually feel like a team. It gets you pretty good results I've seen. And so even though my husband was like, well, my mom had only C-sections and all of our friends except for one have only had C-sections, and I trust doctors, and what do you mean you want to do it at home with a midwife? I think no matter how big the gap is, if you are a team and if you go in vulnerably and you're able to get out of your own way and go, this is freaking hard. This sucks. I don't want to be on a different page from you, and I don't want to coerce you to be on the same page, but this is what I'm feeling. This is what's hard for me. This is my worry. Like my husband's family also thought it was a little weird. But at the end of the day, he was like, well, yeah, I get it. This is the most vulnerable, powerful moment of your life. You should have it on your terms.
Mm-hmm.
But I think your partner can only hear that if you come in with, like I said, the vulnerability and the trust. Otherwise, what they're hearing
Mm-hmm.
is what you want is wrong. What you want would be bad for me. What you want is unacceptable. And it's very hard to think critically and to learn, like to really, if somebody wants a home
Mm-hmm.
birth and their partner doesn't, you have to do a lot of educating. You can't educate somebody who feels shamed or blamed or guilted. Our brains don't work that way. So if they're in that state, they're not going to want to learn. They're
Yeah.
just going to want to end the conversation. The goal is to actually want to keep having the uncomfortable conversations. I know I keep saying that in different ways, but it's one of the big goals, is just actually want to have the discomfort now and trust that you're getting through it as a team. And it's actually going to give you all the serotonin of like, we're making it through discomfort as a team, and we're on the same page, and like the best depressant. And right. If you can have that attitude and make it more playful and go like, this is a challenge, this is a game, and we're in this game. And like the last level, well, the last level is not the labor and delivery room, if you ask me. The last level is probably
It's
like,
parenting. Everything.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, it's like I think like 6 weeks postpartum, and then the 4 month, sleep regression, and how cranky you are
Oh,
with each
no. And then when they're
level.
adult children and they want to move back home, or they're going through something and they need help and you don't agree on it, there's lots of different levels.
Exactly. So it's like there's always going to be a next level. So you're moving towards the finish line now, but you're never done parenting
Mm-hmm.
together. So
Mm-mm.
yeah, I think if you just treat it like a game and you go, there's always going to be a tougher level. Let's master this one as a team. If we can stay a team, we can get to the next level. If we're not a team, we're going to be stuck on this one. We're going to be either just resentful and not having the same conversation, or we're going to be having it as a fight over and over again.
If you're pregnant and feeling overwhelmed, unsure about what really matters for birth, or hoping it all just goes well, this is for you. Most parents don't realize that it isn't effort, it's preparation that actually builds confidence. The Calm Birth Bundle closes that gap. It walks you through labor, birth, and your options in a clear, calming way. So you're not guessing in the moment or relying on someone else to decide for you. The goal isn't a perfect birth. It's a confident one. Right now, as a podcast listener, you can take $50 off with the code POD50. Go to labornursemama.com/calm, CALM. Get prepared, feel grounded, and go into your birth knowing you've done your part. Yeah, and I love that you said practice it ahead of time and check your energy, because I know for myself for sure this is so on point, because when I get in my head that I'm going into this to prove my point, or I know I'm right, or what, when I go in with that energy, I'm automatically like, you know how like a dog when their hackles go up or whatever. Like he already senses that energy. And so he's like, what do I have to defend myself against right now? So I love that you address that, because I think
Yeah.
I know that's a really important lesson just in relationship in general. And even as a mom, when you're parenting your child, like you can go into the conversation with your child knowing that you're the authority and they have to listen. But if you go into it with the attitude of like, I get to train this human, I get to help this human learn how to navigate, instead of like, it's my way or the highway type parenting, which that was what I was raised in, and it always made me feel like I needed to find a way around it, instead of learn from it. So this is just good life lesson.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. People like to go around uncomfortable things in general, but especially around power dynamics, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't want to figure out who's actually right or who's actually more powerful here. Like, I'm going to rebel silently. And
Mm-hmm.
having a rebellious partner come into a delivery room or parenting, or I mean, that's so difficult. That
Mm-hmm.
is, it feels like a life sentence if you when you create that for yourself and you have that dynamic and you go,
Yeah.
how are we going to move back to feeling like a team? So I think a lot of that is also prevention, right? Like
Yeah.
you said, you go in with, I'm actually trying to guide the conversation. I'm not trying to win a fight and I'm not trying to prove a point. I'm trying to be a better teammate.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, what are like, if you have, and by the way, we're going to share where you can find Lena and how you can work with her. But if you had someone who is already in that dynamic where they're not a team, what are three things that they can do right now to get back towards become, because I know you can't just magically fix that because it's so much like, there's so much there, but what are three things that a mom can do that's listening right now if she's like, holy moly, Lena, holy moly, Trish, like we aren't a team anymore? What are some baby steps back towards becoming a team again?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to own it, to just own your part in it. I think accountability goes a really long way. When we say to someone, hey, I don't feel like we've been much of a team, and I know I played a part in it. I'm sorry when I said this and I knew it would hurt you, or I know I've been trying to prove a point more than I've been trying to listen to what your comfort zone is. I know I'm not meeting you halfway. I don't think I'm in the position to meet you halfway. I'm very anxious about this. If you can just like name that, that
Mm-hmm.
already makes it easier to have the rest of the conversation, because now you framed it with, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I'm not making you out to be the bad guy. I'm looking to improve as a part of this conversation. So I'm looking for
Mm-hmm.
myself to change too. It's a lot easier to invite the other person to change in a conversation when you want to change too, versus when it feels one sided.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you have to do though is just forgive yourself. So even as things pop up and you notice yourself getting defensive, you go, okay, I'm feeling defensive because I think what I'm about to say is offensive. I'm giving this person expectations to live up to that I don't know that they want to live up to. Because if they wanted to live up to it and they could live up to it easily, they would already. So I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
challenging them. I need to forgive myself in the moments that I see that happening in the conversation. So I need to go, okay, what is the best way I can challenge them? Again, while being a team, again, while not saying that I'm right and they're wrong, right? So forgiving yourself as those things come up actually make it easier to not get angry at the other person, because now you're not trying to prove to yourself that I am worth expressing this. This is a big enough deal that I can, because the thing you're about to say is not villainous to begin with. So you don't have to justify it as much. So that would be thing
Mm-hmm.
number two. And then yeah, thing number three is really just like practice, and don't practice just to be heard. I mean, being heard, I fundamentally believe that being heard is something that you create. It's not something people give you. And at the same time, if that is your only goal in a conversation, it means you're in kind of like a scarcity and a lack already. So if you can
Mm-hmm.
practice from a place of believing there's already a good resolution here, I'm already
Mm-hmm.
going to get something I can feel at peace with, right? It might not be like my first choice, might not be perfect, but I know I'm going to have peace on the other side of this conversation. Let me practice it in my head, or practice it on Lena's app, or practice it with a friend, but let me practice it knowing that I'm going to come up with very different things to say. And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
come up with much kinder ways to say the same things, and much easier to understand ways of getting in touch with my emotions, right? Because other people want to get in touch with your emotions. You trust your partner wants to do that. Let me make it easy for them. I'm not dumping big emotions because I have a certain level of belief in the piece. So those would be the three things I think you have to take with you and just practice over and over again.
I love that. I love all of that so much. Well, thank you so much. Can you share with everyone exactly where they can find you? And we'll also put some stuff in the show notes, but go ahead and let everyone know how they can find you.
Absolutely. So best place is my website. It's my name, lenaathena.com. I also have Threads and Instagram and all those fun things, which I'm sure we'll link in the
Yeah.
notes, which is just Lena, then the letter S, Athena. And I do really think it's a different subdomain, but if you go to her.lenaathena.com, I think you're going to find a really cool place to practice some of these conversations that can suck, can be hard, but change your life. And so I think it's worth checking that out.
I love that so much. And I'm just going to challenge those of you who are listening who did feel like you're not a team any longer, which is, it so easily happens. And all of a sudden you realize it. I love what Lena suggested was to approach your partner and say, I'm sorry for my side in this. Like I played a role in this. How can we fix it together? Because that is just going to create a great foundation moving forward for you to have all of these conversations. I wouldn't jump into the hard conversations yet. I would start there, baby steps. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really fun.
As always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit subscribe and do me a favor, please. Some of you guys come into my world and you're like, I've listened to every podcast episode, but you haven't left a review. So I am asking you to please do me a favor and leave a review. It means so much to us, and it tells the podcast gods that are out there that you love our podcast. So please take 2 seconds and leave a review. We love you guys so much. We show up for you because I wholeheartedly believe that if we can change how women approach their birth and their postpartum, we can change the world. Our mantra here is changing the birth culture through one birth at a time. Okay, you guys, I'll see you again next Friday. Bye for now.